Hey everyone,
Hi.
and welcome to talk about sand. It's coarse, it's rough, and it gets
It gets
everywhere.
everywhere.
I don't like sand. It's coarse, and rough, and irritating, and it gets everywhere. Not like
It just gets everywhere. No, we're not talking about sand today. But if you recognize that
Man,
quote,
I think
you'll
Anakin
know
in that
exactly what we're
movie
talking about.
had some sand in his, you know.
Vagine.
Oh yeah, that angsty little bitch.
It's coarse, it's rough, and it gets everywhere. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, obviously, we're talking about Star Wars, right? Wrong way. Star Wars. And it says retrospective. And I just realized you can't see my co-host.
Is that the expensive daddy?
No, God, no. I would not bring that thing down into the basement. Hell no. It's like a little bit far back, but only because it doesn't fall over. That's fine.
He's still so cute.
Yes, indeed. But now I just feel uncomfortably far away. So actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna do this. So anyway, it says retrospective, and really it is, the retrospective on our personal experience with Star Wars. It's not really a retrospective on Star Wars itself. We'd be here forever. It'd probably be a 9-part series, and we just don't have time for that. So yeah, we're going to talk about when we first got introduced into Star Wars, what it means to us, the first movie we saw in theaters, how we feel about it now, so on and so forth. And then we'll cap the conversation off with our feelings of sand. Okay. So let's get this ball rolling. So Lucas, if you would be so kind, tell me about your experience with Star Wars.
So I didn't watch the Star Wars movie. Well, I never was into them. Oh God, you can be stroking Yoda. It's not his fucking name. Grogu.
No, it's
You're gonna be
Grogu.
Stroking your
Let's
Grogu.
continue. I'm just gonna fix the Grogu.
Okay. So I didn't really get into Star Wars as I would say a fan until I was in like late elementary school, early middle school, I want to say. Right around the time that Revenge of the Sith was coming out. I kind of missed out on the prequels. I thought that they looked stupid. Even as a kid, I thought they were a little silly, right? Didn't really care too much about the original movies. My dad always liked them, always watching them when they were on TV. But I just thought it was like, oh, it's my dad's thing, whatever. And this new one came out, and I sort of felt alienated because every kid in the fucking planet loved the Star Wars prequels and the older movies. So, better late than never. So I jumped on the bandwagon, saw Revenge of the Sith, did enjoy it. From that point forward, as I always say, one of my favorite DVD sets, even though they are the altered versions, this was the first time Star Wars was released on DVD. And
yes,
as we already established, you thought there were two versions, the gold version and the silver one.
I did.
But the only difference is the fact that they are full screen and widescreen. So of course I had to get the widescreen set, even with a 4x3 TV. I hate full screen. But I got these, really enjoyed them, got to see them. I'm one of the lucky kids because a lot of people in our age group saw the prequels and then the original trilogy, or in some variation of that. I watched all of these ones first. I have an affinity for them, of course. From there on, when I graduated from middle school, like I got $100, I went and bought the entire set on DVD. These ones, I got all these at FYE at a mall that's local. It's pretty shitty now. But I got all. I
don't think that FYEs is still there.
Nope. It's a Victoria's Secret. No, the Suncoast is a Victoria's Secret, and the FYE is a pink or something. So, Yep. But I got all these. And I, even back in the day, didn't really care for them, but of course I had to have them to complete the set. But the
Mhm.
one thing that really made me a Star Wars fan, even as a middle schooler, I was a hipster. I prided myself on liking the originals because it was, just the original. I've always been that way. I still am. Was these sets. These are the coveted, only unaltered DVD releases of the movie. And I can't tell you how many times I watched these movies while playing Lego Star Wars on the PSP, just alone in the basement. I had so much fun with this series, and I had one friend in particular. His name was Devin, who was really into Star Wars and Harry Potter. So he lived in the subdivision across the street. We went to the same elementary school, middle school, and high school. So we were great friends. And he was the one friend that I told you where he said, I like the prequels more because they're new. And that was his whole argument. And he had nothing else to back it up with. He said that the CG was cool. But he was a huge Resident Evil fan.
I need you to track down this Devin and ask him how he feels about it today.
I would love to know.
When we do the Obi-Wan review, I just realized I forgot an important part of my beginning spiel, that the whole reason we're even doing this to begin with is so we don't shock our, 150-ish viewers that we have, and they don't go, what, they're going to start talking about Star Wars now? What is this, bandwagoners? No, we've always liked it. We just never really talked about it. We hinted at it and stuff, but when we decided that, like, oh, we're definitely going to talk about the Obi-Wan series, we're like, we probably should explain our Star Wars past to the people. So just so you know, but
which, well, now that you bring it up, I think is actually a good idea, because this is where the story will turn a little bit. Anyway, the last thing I'll say about Dev is this guy, he had a GameCube and a PS2. And I just remember at the time he had every single Resident Evil game ever made for the GameCube and the PS2. Like, that was him and his brother's favorite game, like, ever. And he had all the James Bond games. He had all the Zelda games, all the Mario. And I think about it, and his GameCube collection, if he still has it, is probably worth at least $1,000 fucking dollars.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
Like, probably minimum. Devin, if you're out there, your GameCube games, give them to me. I want them. It's a sentimental purpose.
You got any Resident Evil games in there, Devin?
Oh,
let's talk.
He had everything. Anyway, so so this was like elementary school, middle school-ish. Well into high school, like right when I'm starting to finish high school, the Blu-rays come out for Star Wars for the first time, and it was a big thing. All the fans were wondering, are we going to get our high definition 1080p unaltered editions of these movies? George, it was not going to budge. Nope, he wasn't going to do it. And I think this was a turning point, because I just fucking loved Star Wars up until that point. I was like a late bloomer for it, if you will. But I really, really fell into it. But that Blu-ray really pissed me off, because at that time, the despecialized edition was being worked on, and you could easily pirate it for free, and they're encouraging you to download this movie. And that DVD set just sucked. They altered the movies even further with McClunky,
well, the McClunky is actually a Disney Plus edition, so that didn't happen until like a year ago.
My point is, they just couldn't keep their grubby little fingers off these movies. And even back then, I was sick of it. So I sort of fell out of Star Wars. And then when Force Awakens came out, I saw that in theaters with my dad, and I fucking loved it. Thought it was amazing. And then I have the exact, like, pretty much a textbook story that everybody else has with it, right? Where that got me reinvigorated to the franchise. I'm like, they're going to make an Empire pseudo sequel for the next movie. I started watching all the movies again. Like, it was awesome to be a Star Wars fan again. And then The Last Jedi came out, and, it has its moments that are enjoyable, but overall it's a piece of shit. And then Rise of Skywalker, I like a lot, but I don't love like I do The Force Awakens. And as far as all the Disney stuff goes,
what about Solo or Rogue One?
Oh my gosh. So Rogue One, I like the ending. I wasn't the biggest fan of that movie. And Solo, I never saw.
I'm shaking my head because I'm disappointed in this guy over here. Just so you guys know, I will get to it, but I love Rogue One.
We've said that before, like in person.
Maybe, but not to the people,
not to the masses,
right?
But I guess I would say I'm more of a traditional Star Wars fan in the sense, you know, I think I've only seen the prequels, dude, like 3 times a piece. No, Phantom Menace. Revenge of the Sith, I've probably seen like 15 times or so in my life, but the other ones I've probably only seen them about 3 times. The original trilogy, countless, absolutely countless. And last little tidbit I'll throw in, I know it's silly, but my favorite Star Wars game was this one specifically for PSP, only because I remember getting it and playing it on the bus on the way to Cedar Point, and I beat the whole game that in the 2 trips. And that was the height of my Star Wars fandom. I went and just bought everything, and totally love it. Absolutely. Oh, there's a crack in the case. Bad.
I can't see it, but
anyway,
we'll take your word for it.
Yes. So, yeah, I would say more of a traditional Star Wars fan. And my favorite movie is, of course, Empire. But for whatever reason, I think we said it in the last one, I've watched A New Hope probably more. It's a very, very wholesome feeling movie. I love that movie.
Yep. And anybody wondering what that means, the last one, we were halfway through filming our original version of this. And unfortunately, there was just, we got interrupted time and time again. And then by the time we were, trying to reach the end, we still had so much to say, and it was just basically we ran out of time, and we're like, this is not that good to begin with. Not that this one's going to be any better, but at least it'll be a full, complete experience for you. And we're just like, you know what? It's just easier to just refilm it from scratch. We tend to do a little bit better anyway when we are doing like a take 2 of something, because we almost feel like we don't have to say every little thing that's on our mind because we already said it technically. So it's like it makes it a more enjoyable experience to the people listening. So we've reached the end of your little story.
I would say
there.
That's my summarization.
Okay. So
wouldn't it be cool if this was a lightsaber? Do they make lightsaber like lip balm tubes? Like they make Star Wars everything.
They have like lightsaber keychains. That would be
it's just like as
that
good.
Same size.
It's just as good as this.
Correct.
Albeit a bit more abrasive.
Get like a Kylo Ren one that's like, sort of scratchy. Be like, why is my lip balm so chunky?
Why am I bleeding from my lips?
Yes. So my first experience, I didn't catch any dates in there when you were talking.
Dates?
So what year was it
of my
that
Star
you
Wars
first
fandom?
Were introduced? Yes, for the very first time.
Oh, when I was introduced to it for the first time, like when I was like a little baby and I still wasn't too into it. Like it's always been around on
baby.
TV.
Like when you actually watched them for the very first time.
Oh, it's 2005. That's when I sat down and I bought all of them with that money from middle school or whatever, and I just went through the whole thing.
Okay. So that's the same year that Revenge of the Sith came out. For anybody taking notes out there. I first was introduced and became addicted, head over heels, fell in love with the series in 1997 with the special edition releases. They were the VHSs.
Keep talking.
Yeah, DVDs weren't invented at the time. We still had a number of years until that happened. And
except this is the original, but we'll have this for reference.
Right. Yeah, they were definitely the special editions that I saw. And the only reason I remember that is because first off, it was 1997. That was when they released. And number 2, there was always a little spiel at the beginning. Make sure you get your Raisin Bran there. Does it say $7 off What
Yes.
kind of Raisin Bran is this? This is some expensive Raisin Bran.
It expired in 1996. I guess inflation was really hitting them hard back then too.
So anyway,
you can keep talking. I'm just showing these.
Sounds good. It's hard to. I have issues. Yippee! Yeah, the George Lucas interview. Can't miss that one. But yeah, so 1997 came along, the special editions came out. I know that they were the special editions because they had their little spiel at the very beginning that was like, look at how we changed Star Wars and made it more awesome. And it was like and we were able to clean up the edges, and anytime they're in the cockpit, the green screen didn't quite match up from window to window, and so we cleaned it up so now they just match perfectly, all that kind of stuff. I remember seeing that all the time. So I was like, well, they have to be the special editions then, unless I had some super secret like early version of it before that even came out. But yeah, I fell in love with them. A New Hope was the one for some reason that I really gravitated towards, and I didn't own them though. That's the really weird part. Like, I would always go and rent them from the local Family Video, and eventually I just started only renting A New Hope and watching that, and I couldn't tell you why. So I ended up knowing that one like the back of my hand, and the others I knew relatively well, but that one I just really knew. Like, that was, for all intents and purposes, for a while there, that like was Star Wars to me. And then of course they started ramping up the whole, marketing campaign of the Phantom Menace, and I just, it grabbed me and it pulled me in even harder. And so it was everywhere. For anybody that was alive at that time, it was everywhere. So there was anything from, we're a professional show here, people. We're always prepared. Anything from magazines, right? So Star Wars Insider, exclusive interview with Natalie Portman or whatever this says. And, like this kind of stuff was everywhere. And not to mention Taco Bell had a whole thing going on. Look at this bad boy.
Hey, it's me, I'm on the go.
Exactly. And don't know what happened to the straw, but whatever. I even contemplated drinking from this today. Like if I needed water, I'd be like, but I'm like, God, this thing hasn't been used in years. I might not want to do that. But this is pretty good quality stuff. This is like legit, like plastic sitting on top of here. And I saw some pictures of ones other people had, and they had every single character from the Phantom Menace. How I ended up with this Watto, right? That's what it's called.
Yes.
I have no idea. It must be the last one they had, and I don't know if they were like, oh, if they just gave them to you, probably not, or if they were like, hey, do you want to upgrade to the fancy cup for $5 or something like that? That's probably what it was. So yeah, so there was that, and the little toys, Boss Nass, I believe this thing is called.
Yes.
And when I see this thing, I just think, and then this bad boy here, this Jar Jar Binks,
no longer functional.
It no longer functions. Luckily, I have a video that we can insert of it. It's Last Stand. The last time it functioned, I sent a video to Lucas, because it's supposed to be that you do this with the arms and then a tongue comes out. And I sent him this video where I got closer and closer and closer in on it, and then it broke right after that. And I found out that the tongue was made out of wax, which I'm like, probably not the best material to use. So that thing was a ticking time bomb. It's unfortunate that it's not functioning anymore, but yeah, so that kind of stuff was everywhere. I could not be more excited for this movie. And I remember having a book that had a photo on the front of it of it was like a promo still of young Anakin Skywalker walking.
Was it the encyclopedia book that had everything in it?
Maybe. I don't remember. I just remember the cover, and the shadow cast behind him was the shadow of Darth Vader.
Oh, that's
cool. It
was
super cool. And being a young stupid kid at that time, so they ended up coming out in 99, right? So yeah, I was 7-8 years old. I thought that was going to be in the movie at some point. Like, I didn't know that was like just a straight up like promo still. But I was super excited for this movie. I went to theaters, I saw it with my dad, and I freaking loved it, obviously, right? How could you not when you're a kid? And looking back on it now, I don't feel the same way about it whatsoever. I feel very much the same that everybody else does, but that did not happen right away to me. So saw the movie, absolutely adored it, but then time went on and I had lost interest. I fell out of it, and I don't know why. I was hardcore into it as well. When we recorded this the first time, I mentioned that I also had, Shadows of the Empire for N64, and I wasn't big into many of the other games, unfortunately. But that one was just one that I had that I loved very much, and it was great. But yeah, so a few years comes down the line, and Attack of the Clones is on the horizon, and I just didn't care anymore, to be honest with you. I remember sitting in my history class or social studies or whatever in middle school, and my friends were all excited for Attack of the Clones, which was about to come out in like a week. And they're like, hey, you gonna go see it? And I'm like, is Darth Vader finally gonna be in it? Does Anakin finally transition to Darth Vader? And they're like, no, that's gonna be the next one. And then I was like, I'm good. Like, I just didn't care. I don't know what it was exactly.
Well, even though I didn't watch them in the way you did, I understand where you're coming from with it, because after having watched the originals in all their glory, and then have to transition to Phantom Menace, coming off the heels of that, it's so hard to go to Attack of the Clones. It is such a slump. It is such a stop to the prequel, because the first one I didn't, it's not the worst, but the second one truly is. And then it's that wait to the third one that makes the second one even worse than it already is. Like, it's just so many flashbacks of that movie. Like, the whole assembly line C-3PO thing literally looks like a PS3 game today. It does. Bad. The whole fight on...
You're being kind to it, calling it a PS3 game.
I mean, I haven't watched these like probably since I watched them on like this TV, 15 years ago. So I don't. You know what? I'm gonna watch the prequels now on this one in 4K. I'll let you know what I think.
Yeah, do that. I watched them all within the last few years, so they're all still relatively fresh in my mind. And there's some really bad stuff in there. I mean, I ended up waiting until Revenge of the Sith finally came out, and knowing that Darth Vader was finally going to make his appearance and Anakin was going to turn to the dark side, and like, this was officially the last one before we're going to transition into the original trilogy. My excitement reawoke, and I was like, I kind of really was able to spark that.
The Force awakened.
Yes. yes, it did. So I just got excited again, and I played the game. Like, I played the episode 3 game.
How did I not mention the game? Oh my god, that game was...
I don't know.
Getting the sneak...
You had it last time.
I know, yeah. I haven't...
Hold it out. Where is it?
Here, I'll go grab it. Fine.
Yeah, go grab it. So that game came out, if I'm not mistaken, it came out before the actual official release of the movie. And I was just all into it. And this game has I mentioned this in a previous episode, but this game has 2 different endings as well, depending on whether or not you kill Obi-Wan Kenobi or Obi-Wan Kenobi takes you over. And, you know, I've got the high ground, Anakin. You know, you are my brother, Anakin. You were supposed to, what does he, what does exactly say? You're supposed to dispel the
bring
darkness,
balance to the Force,
them.
not destroy it.
No, that's not it either.
You're supposed to bring balance to the Force, not destroy it. I'm pretty sure that's the line.
No, that's good. That's not bad. But no.
What's the line?
You were
again?
supposed
Quickly.
to something.
Well, it's fresh in my mind.
You were supposed to destroy the Sith, not join them.
Yeah, I was not. It sounded good though.
Yeah, it sounded official.
I mean,
so
I convinced myself. I could hear Ewan McGregor saying it. Like, I thought I was right. Anyway,
I mean, I can hear Ewan McGregor in my mind most of the time. Some would call it schizophrenia. I just call it happiness. So that was good. So hard for me to stay on track. And I beat the game like 3 times. That's how I found out about the 2 different endings as well, was, you know, I felt particularly frisky one of the times, just decided to murder Obi-Wan. And let's see what happens here, right? So I went back and I again rented. I don't know what my problem. I swear to God, eventually I ended up buying them, if you can believe it. But I went and rented the original trilogy. I watched episode 1 and episode 2, and in preparation for finally seeing, you know, Revenge of the Sith. And I was just like, it all came back to me, all coming back to me. And at that time, I was really able to see for the first time really why I did kind of fall out of Star Wars a little bit, because the quality difference between the original trilogy and the prequels is significant. And it's not something you necessarily noticed as a kid, but you notice it when you're a little bit older. And at that time in 2005, you know, I was 14 years old. So I was able to see with a little bit more of a, you know, mature lens, I guess you could say. And I was afraid to admit what I felt about those prequels, though, at that time, those 2 prequels. Like, I didn't want to admit to people that I didn't like it, because I thought I would be letting everybody down and that I could never call myself a Star Wars fan. Like, this was Star Wars now. This was modern Star Wars. And to, at that time, at least in my opinion, to call what the modern version of that thing is, say that it's not good, that you don't like it, then you're like, you can't say you're a fan, you know, like, oh, you like the original trilogy. Little did I know, this is what almost everybody in the world was thinking. They just weren't sharing it yet. Everybody was kind of feeling like me, where they're like, I don't think I can really say it. Especially when it came to episode 1 and like the lead up to that. And, you know, there's the movie Fanboys, which is all about that. And, you know, there's documentaries and stuff, and people were so excited. People went and they missed out on the, you know, the little figures, the Kenner figures from the original run. And they were like, I know how I'm going to make my fortune. And they went and bought all the Kenner figures or whatever it was at that time for episode 1, and they ended up being worth nothing. And people were just sitting on mounds and mounds of these episode 1 figures that were just worthless. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. Not to cut you off, but just to add to the story of that. There was this store at the mall that I mentioned earlier, which, you know what mall I'm talking about, but I just don't like to say too many. Yeah, and that's why you don't bring the expensive one down here.
That's exactly right.
So at that mall, I don't know if you remember this, it was right next to the old Dollar Tree by the Kohl's. It was a toy store that sold vintage toys like Star Wars, Star Trek, Planet of the Apes stuff, like just the nerdiest, complete in box, pristine things
No, I don't know what this is.
you could imagine. They had some of the super duper cheap Star Wars stuff, and they had some of the really expensive stuff. They had like the giant AT walkers, whatever. They had the Millennium Falcon ship, but like
ATs or
that's what I meant to say. I didn't want to say at because it sounds dumb to me, but
it does sound dumb, but that's what most people call them. I call them AT-ATs.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a cool store. But I remember specifically, like you said, this guy was definitely trying to get rid of all the Phantom Menace Star Wars toys that he bought like 15 years prior. Because this was about that time, yeah. No, yeah, it was. If I had money and I had a job at that time, I would have ravaged that store.
Oh my God, 100%. I had a bunch of Star Wars toys that have since been lost to time, unfortunately, and why I still have these, I don't know, but
because
I'm happy about
your
it.
Favorite movie, and Jar Jar Binks was your most favorite addition to the franchise.
Yeah, that's correct. So wherever I was at, so episode 3 was on the horizon, and even though I played the third episode's game and loved it so much, I still was not one to like branch off into these other games. And I wish that I was, because there was some great stuff that released at that time, and people have tons of nostalgia for a lot of those games. It wasn't until just a couple years ago that I finally played Star Wars Bounty Hunter, and I was like, this is a great game. I would have been all up on this at the time had I played it then. So thank you for PlayStation for remastering it for PS4. So good on you. But I
don't blame you, man. There's just so many Star Wars games at the time. It was still now.
Not only that, there was definitely too many of them to really get a clear picture of what was good and what wasn't. This was connected to episode 2 at that time, and an episode of Star Wars that I just didn't give a crap about. So I was like, you're going to connect a game to episode 2? That sounds awful. No, thank you. You play as Jango Fett? No, thank you. You know what I mean? So I was very stupid, obviously, because the game is, like I said, it's great. But I finally go see Revenge of the Sith in theaters. I bring my friend Robbie with me. He doesn't really care that much, but I was like blown away by the quality. And it's not like it's the highest quality movie of all time. It's just so much higher quality than the previous 2 that it looks like a borderline masterpiece. Still to this day, people call it the good prequel, so
that's what I call it.
It definitely did a lot more things right than anything else did. And finally, when Anakin transitions into Darth Vader, it's awesome. They kind of spoiled that in the video game, though. And I remember that part coming in the video game. And I replayed the last level a couple times just so I could rewatch that scene.
Which we put on this channel before.
Yes. I think I mentioned it in the licensed
video game video. Yeah.
And it gave me chills. I loved it so much. I went and grabbed my mom, like, you have to see this. She doesn't care, but I made her watch it, So I was like all back in, baby, all back into Star Wars. And I remained that way really until now, with just one pothole along the way. And, so nothing came out from 2005 until 2015, which is crazy. That's 10 years of nothing. No movies, at least. Obviously, there was, some TV shows here and there. There was like Clone Wars and stuff. And I was like, I think that came out in 2008. And again, it was connected to the one I didn't like. Mm-hmm. So I missed out on it, and everybody talks about how good Clone Wars, the TV show, is. And I was just like, well, whatever. I'll watch it eventually. And finally, I was going to go watch it a couple years ago. It was on Netflix, but I found out, luckily, before watching it, all the episodes were out of order. So I'm like, I don't even know where to begin. And I found this guide online where it would tell you exactly what order to watch the episodes in. And I'm like, that's too much work. I don't want to do that. And so I just never watched it. But Force Awakens came out. It was an absolute masterpiece, in my opinion. You know, people loved it at the time. A lot of people like to deny that now, but people loved it at the time. I mean, I ran into work the next day so excited to talk about it with everybody. Everybody else was so excited to talk about it. And that's all we just did for that entire weekend of work. Following that Thursday, we just talked about The Force Awakens. It was so cool. And, you know, people disliked Han Solo dying in it, of course. I was like, yeah, I didn't like that, but what are you gonna do? You know, you have to let characters go eventually. Harrison Ford was not going to do the movie unless they killed him off. So what would you rather have? A movie that doesn't have Harrison Ford in it at all, or a movie that has him in it but he dies at the end? To me, that's an easy decision to make. What do you think?
Yes.
Right? I feel like you weren't even listening to anything I was saying, but that is like a super easy decision to make.
Well, I mean, did anybody really think that Harrison Ford was going to be in all three of them? Let's get fucking real. And I said that in the last video. It's that people need to make a distinction that the actor is not the character. And an actor like Harrison Ford is not going to remember one line of that goofy ass dialogue while you remember everything he said with all the inflection. Han Solo's not real. I'm sorry. And I remember thinking that as a kid, where like, you know, like an actor, like you watch behind the scenes or like they can't even get the own quote right. I'm like, huh, how do I know when you're the character? You know what I mean? It's like, because they're not. These kids, these are man children that never grew up.
They usually never see the movie that they're in either, these actors. And so they do the scene and they move on with their lives. Do you remember something that happened to you, you know, 20 years ago, you know? So, you know, that's just the defense of it. But yeah, and Harrison Ford doesn't like anything he's in except Indiana Jones for some reason. So
yeah, I know, right?
I mean, I don't know why that is. I mean, Indiana Jones is great, but so is Star Wars and a lot of other things he's done. But whatever, I mean, we can't get into the psyche of Harrison Ford.
We'll be here forever.
Yeah, it will not get anywhere, unfortunately.
We'd be here forever.
He's a very crotchety old man.
Let me get my helicopter. So it was crash it.
Yes. So I was grateful that he was in the movie. I loved it. I saw it like 2 or 3 more times in theaters, and I was just over the moon with that movie. I really was. And still to this day, I still love it. I just rewatched it recently, and I'm like, this is such a good movie. It's just so good. And before I transition, I do have to mention, though, that for anybody that goes, well, you know, Harrison Ford, you know, maybe he likes it. He doesn't. He was in an interview with Conan O'Brien, I believe, at the time. And Conan was like, so what was it like to finally step foot back on the Falcon with Chewie by your side? And he's like, I don't give a damn. What do I care? Doesn't mean anything to me. And I'm like, you cold-hearted bastard. But at least it painted a nice picture to me of like, he doesn't have any nostalgia or anything for these movies. And you gotta remember too that at the time he cheated on his wife with Carrie Fisher, and
oh god,
that was not a good time of his life at all. And I think that he kind of just puts that in his head of like just a very bad tumultuous time in his life. Sure. You know, there's that association. So yeah, so loving Star Wars. Last Jedi came out, you know, I was so excited for The Last Jedi. That movie was the movie I was the most excited for in a long time. I mean, that was certainly the biggest Star Wars movie for me, you know. And I was just like, oh my God, it's going to be so good. And all the trailers looked great. All the TV spots looked great. there wasn't anything negative I heard about it or anything. So it was truly one of the biggest, most devastating experiences of my life, sitting in that theater and watching that movie, because it was like, what? Like, everything that was set up was just truly thrown over Luke's shoulder, basically. Like it just didn't matter anymore.
I remember, oh my god, dude, I'm so glad you mentioned the fucking lightsaber thing. I have blocked that out of my mind. When you brought up The Last Jedi, like, you know how we always say little funny quotes, I was like, it's time for the Jedi to end, which is something Luke would never fucking say. Number one.
I don't think so.
Number two, oh god, when I finally saw that movie and I was talking to my two YouTube friends about it, I said, you know what? That scene when Luke threw the lightsaber over the shoulder literally reminded me of a Three Stooges skit. And I was expecting to hear a sound effect on the way over, because of the way they set it up to be so like, oh my god, the lightsaber.
Yep. Boop, boop. Yep. That's how The Force Awakens ended. It ended on that moment, which was like a moment that runs chills down your spine in a good way, that she finally is face to face with Luke Skywalker, this character we have known for so many years, this character that's mentioned time and time again in this movie. They finally find out where he's hiding. He's about to receive his lightsaber and the movie ends. And you're like, yes! Like, I just got excitement again just saying that. Like, I'm like, that is the yes.
He has a beard.
That's right when you cut out.
He looks like Obi-Wan. We're getting set up for a pseudo Empire sequel with a nice training sequence.
It was all set up for them. J.J. Abrams wrote the treatment for the next two movies. You just had to follow that, write a great script, and they didn't. And it's a throwaway joke in the first 5 minutes of the movie of him taking that lightsaber and throwing it over his shoulder like he doesn't care. And it was like silence in my theater when I saw that. There was a couple chuckles, but it was mostly silence because people are like, what? Like, is this a joke? And it wasn't a joke. And it just, the rest of the movie continued on just like that, from squeezing the titties. I don't think you can say that on YouTube. Squeezing the boobies of that creature that looks like it's like being massively abused. I'm trying to think of a better word than that, but that creature looks like it's being abused by Luke as it just sits there, and he just it's like, what are you doing? This is so it's so weird. And he wants the Jedi to end. Like, that part was in the trailer, but you're like, there's got to be a good reason for it. No, there's not. Just so anybody knows out there. Yes, Kylo Ren went bad and killed people. But it was like, I don't think Luke would give up. And whatever. So Benicio del Toro, love the guy, weird character.
He was honestly one of my standouts of that movie, because everything else sucks so bad. At least he was interesting.
He was interesting for sure. And it was all just like, what was all this for? How could I possibly love something so much like The Force Awakens? It reinvigorated everything that was Star Wars. It was everywhere, just like back in the day with Episode 1 stuff. And then this is the sequel we get. And it was like, truly, this is the last thing I'll say about this before, I'll transition on, but because I don't want to keep harping on it. Everybody's heard everything there is to hear about The Last Jedi, but it's like somebody, J.J. Abrams wrote, a couple walked up and sat on a park bench, and then he took that and he passed it off to Rian Johnson, and Rian Johnson looked at it and went, no, it wasn't a couple. It was two clowns, and they were murderers, and it wasn't a park bench. It was the spaceship, and they weren't in a park. They were on the moon. You know what I mean? Like, you're just changing things just to change it. And you're like, wait a minute, they're not two clowns on the moon. I just saw this movie. It was a couple on a park bench. You know what I mean? Like, obviously that's exaggerated, but it was just changing everything just for the hell of it. There was no structure. And so then J.J. Abrams had to come back and try to fix it. It was already destroyed by that point, as far as I'm concerned. So Rise of Skywalker is a movie that it's exactly what you expect it to be. And I mean that in the worst way possible. It gives you everything that you wanted, because they needed to tie everything up in a nice bow and get it done. And I don't blame JJ for that. In fact, so many people shit on JJ Abrams. They call him Jar Jar Abrams. And it's like, stop. JJ Abrams was a great choice for those movies. His Star Trek movies were great. Absolutely. He directed 2 out of the 3 of those. His passion was always really Star Wars, but he did those movies because it was like sort of like a stepping stone, and he did a wonderful job. And I'm going to say here and now, I love J.J. Abrams. He's never really let me down, but also I wasn't a lost viewer either. So, there's that. But there's Cloverfield, which he was a producer on, I do believe. And, there's tons of stuff that he's been involved with. I love him. I love the guy. And Rian Johnson is a great director. He can be a great writer.
Yeah, I was going to say, when he's not writing Star Wars.
Correct. He has some awesome movies. Knives Out was a phenomenal movie. And the cinematography of The Last Jedi is gorgeous. Like
what about the Stab movie that Rian Johnson made?
I didn't get that at first. That was a funny one. Yes, that was good, with the ghost face and the flamethrower. Yeah, that was.
I just watched Scream 5 last night, so it was fresh in my memory.
Yeah, for a second I'm like, what? And then I was like, okay, I got it. Yeah, that's funny.
I just couldn't remember if it was Stab 6, 7, or 8 that he directed.
I think it was 8. It was Stab 8.
Okay, yeah, it was sticking out to me. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it was just called Stab. Like they got rid of the 8 from it. It's really funny. But yeah, cinematography is gorgeous. The whole planet, that salt, that when you hit it, it turns red. Like that was gorgeous. That was so cool. And so whatever, I don't know. What else could you have done with Rise of Skywalker? So that series became kind of a dud, unfortunately. The person I would hold most responsible is Rian Johnson. It's not J.J. Abrams. It's just not, people. I'm sorry. But so that was a big bummer for me. That definitely kicked my fandom into the balls a little bit. And it made me had to scramble and sort of like figure out if I really am a Star Wars fan again, And then, Mark Hamill came out and he said that he was very unhappy with the way Luke was treated in The Last Jedi.
I told Ryan, I fundamentally disagree with virtually everything you've decided about my character.
He kept calling him, oh, damn. I wish I could think of whatever. He called him a name, though, not Luke Skywalker, but something else. And my God, we're almost done here, so I will take a moment to look that up. It was like his insult for it.
He's a Gary Lou.
No, it rhymes with Luke.
Pooh?
Huh?
Pooh? It was Pooh?
No, it rhymes with Luke.
Oh, with Luke. Puke?
If it isn't Lone Star and his sidekick, Puke.
So it doesn't rhyme with Luke. So Mark Hamill constantly referred to himself in The Last Jedi as Jake Skywalker. Because it was like, who is this guy? Basically, this is not how Luke would be. And some fans sort of turned on Mark Hamill that really liked the movie. And I was like, yes, thank you, Mark Hamill. I'm happy that you weren't on board with this. And he fought against it, but Rian Johnson wasn't having it. They really didn't get along with each other during the making of that movie. So yeah, took a little bit there. I was kind of upset with Disney Star Wars, but then some TV shows came out through Disney Plus, and it brought me right back, because how can you resist this little guy right here? I mean, I can't, certainly. I spent way too much money on a
Life size
yes, life size
accurate.
from the, you know, actual digital files they used for the Mandalorian to make the real one. Like, it's all from, you know, ILM, I believe. It came all from their files and stuff. So yeah, it's as good as coming from right from the Screen Use mold. So yeah, too much money, but I love it. And yeah, so the Mandalorian is phenomenal. Book of Boba Fett was a bit of a letdown, but it has 2 Mandalorian episodes in there, which is great. And you know, people can't go on. They're kind of smart the way they did. You can't go on and watch the
Keep
Mandalorian
talking.
season
Prince Duncan
3.
needs to be let out of the studio.
Sounds good. You can't go and watch the Mandalorian season 3 without watching the Book of Boba Fett. They've designed it like that specifically, because the story after season 2 continues in the Book of Boba Fett. So when season 3 comes out, people are going to go, wait a minute, I'm confused. Why is this happening? And it's like, yeah, you have to go watch the Book of Boba Fett. Good luck to you. And then you'll have that knowledge. But yeah, it's all great. I feel like I'm missing out on something. Rebels was awesome. I really loved Rebels. That took place right in my like Star Wars sweet spot right there, which is right before episode 4. It's a part of Star Wars that I like. There's been some awesome games, you know. Battlefront wasn't that great. Battlefront
I showed it
2
off before.
Was pretty terrible. No, I mean the new ones.
Oh,
the ones that were just called Battlefront and Battlefront 2.
Battlefront 2, I have that on my PC. That was one of the first games I got when I got my gaming thing, and I don't know why. I think it was because it was like $15 on the Steam store.
Okay.
I bought it, and I played it online, and the on the ground combat is like a fucking third person Call of Duty game, like flat out. And I honestly I didn't think like I played it a few times, and the graphics were, I put it on the highest settings, and they were
my god,
incredible.
They're amazing. Amazing.
I had fun with it for like maybe 6 hours, but I haven't gone back to it in years. I mean, I kind of want.
I played it for longer than that because I did play it online. But the first one didn't. And when I say the first one, I mean the remake. Again, the new Battlefront. Nothing against the old Battlefronts. I know people adore those, but
they do.
It didn't have a single player campaign, so that was disappointing. You were paying $60 for this game that was just an online game, and that's it. There was loot crates. That was a big deal.
If you wanted to buy Darth Vader, it was like 80,000 hours of in-game something or whatever, like, or you could just buy him outright.
You had to pay money.
Yeah,
you had to pay money.
Something weird.
EA Games got so much shit because of that when they released Battlefront 2, there was a single player campaign. It was a relatively short one, but it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. And the loot crates came from just playing. Like, you couldn't buy them anymore. They didn't cost actual money anymore. So they definitely learned a little bit from the things they did wrong, but it was still not that great. And then the beauty that is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order came out in
which we mentioned in our previous episode. Go check it out.
Perfection, absolute perfection that game is. So yeah, so I sit at a pretty good place right now in my Star Wars fandom, and I'm very excited for the sequel, Jedi Survivor. But that was like the greatest video game Star Wars experience in my entire life. Star Wars video game experience, and I don't know, I'm excited for the future. You'll hear what we have to say about Obi-Wan in a couple weeks.
2 weeks?
And yeah, 2 weeks is coming up. And yeah, so we'll talk about that. We won't hint at how we're feeling about that.
Yeah,
we'll
find save
out.
It for
Watch
the actual
that
Big
video.
Daddy.
Indeed. So yeah, so that's all. and I look for. Quickly. I loved Rogue One. I thought that movie was phenomenal. A lot of people say, "Oh, just the ending is good." The entire movie is fantastic. The ending is just mind-blowing, but the whole movie, great. You can't go wrong with Mads Mikkelsen, ever. You cast him in a movie, can't go wrong. I'm sorry, that's just the way that science works. And I bet you didn't know that. I think everybody learned something today. And Solo was a great movie too. People had so many doubts about that movie. Their directors fired, and Ron Howard comes in, and Paul Bettany's brought in and replaces another actor, and Alden Ehrenreich, there's rumors that he sucks so bad and that the movie's gonna fail and all this kind of stuff. And then you actually see the movie and you're like, it's a good movie. And so I'm like, I hope that they're not like gun shy to ever bring him back into something, because they're doing a Donald Glover Lando series. So it only makes sense to have Alden Ehrenreich Han Solo. So I hope that they do that, because he was great. And, comparing him to Harrison Ford, he actually likes Star Wars. So, you know what I'm saying here?
I guess.
Just put all, just go with Alden Ehrenreich from this point forward. No need to de-age an actor, make them look like Harrison Ford or anything. So, and again, he was great. I've never heard anybody say anything bad about him. So, ever since the movie came out, that is. But yeah. So, and anybody that doesn't like Rogue One is dead to me. And that means you, Lucas. I'm kidding, obviously, but also I'm not. But thank you for joining us, everybody.
Yes, everybody.
We really appreciate it. If that was really boring, I apologize. And I would just say, it's what we are.
It is what it is.
Don't
I'm
try
gonna play
to
Battlefront 2
now.
tonight. That's what I'm gonna do when I get off
Play the
work
campaign
tonight.
mode. Not that it's great.
I know.
But...
I'm gonna install it when I get home tonight. I don't have time.
Yeah. I mean,
hopefully
really, you should be playing Fallen Order is what you really should be playing.
I just want to run around on a map and shoot people. That's all I want to do right now.
You can basically do that in Fallen Order, except shooting, you just use a lightsaber. Like it has the lightsaber.
Brandon.
Well, it has many different types of lightsabers in it, but it has the stormtroopers from the original trilogy. Like, you know how good that is?
Anyway, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the video.
You know how good that is?
Brandon will post his Jedi Fallen Order fanboy review within the coming weeks.
I mean, it's too late now, but when Jedi Survivor comes out, I will do a review. You guys want that? I'll do a review next year when it comes out. But
anyway, everybody.
Yes. Bye, everybody.
We will see you in a couple weeks. Talk more Star Wars.
We shall. And and all the
you
usual
will
things.
Comment and subscribe on our videos and like them and share them.
Very good. Why do I have the sudden urge to go and comment and subscribe to a bunch of people on YouTube? So weird. Anyway,
move along.
Yes. Yeah, you will. Please. I'll give this up eventually. But please hit the like button. It helps us out so much. I know it's annoying. I know you don't want to hear it, but if you want to hear me stop saying it, then do it. That's the quickest way to get me to stop saying it. So yes, the force be with you.
And also,
is that what they say?
Always.
The force be with you. Is that what they say? Why does that not sound like?
May the force be with you.
Yes. May the fourth be with you.
Yes.
There you go. Hopefully
bye,
all that's cut out. But
bye, everybody.
May the force be with you. You will like the video. I steal Lucas's jokes.